on, trading card game players? Figs here with Figs Forum, bringing you guys my local Formula Series number 7. So yes, I'm back on Phantom Knights. We're back playing Yu-Gi-Oh! I've been playing a lot of One Piece. I've been playing obviously Yu-Gi-Oh! But I took a break from Yu-Gi-Oh! For a little while in terms of playing Phantom Knights because of course Cashtira was very dominant in the format. We were lucky enough to get a ban list to actually get rid of a Rise Heart at least. So we are able to go back to playing Phantom Knights since we are able to go back to playing a lot of the more broken cards in the meta. Forbidden droplets running around again, which is very nice. I absolutely love and miss that card. I'm glad that I'm able to actually play it again in Phantom Knights. But yeah, I wanted to go ahead and bring you guys my formula of what I'm currently playing for Phantom Knights. I actually played at locals today. I had a really fun day. Again, it's been a while. Actually, last time I played was at the OTS when I played branded, but it's been a while since I've actually thrown together Phantom Knight and actually was running games. But I wanted to go ahead and show you guys what I was playing today and what I had been brewing leading up to today, so that way I wasn't just going to locals and getting blown out by all the meta decks. And I did actually play against meta for the most part. I played against Purely, I played against Branded Chimera, I played against Manadium, and then I lost to, in the final round, I lost to Sprite Runic in time. So yeah, it was very fun. Our locals is actually quite big, and we do have a lot of variants, a lot of variety. Of course, the format is very wide open, so that makes it just as fun. And I wanted to show you guys a small little combo at the end as well, because I definitely think it's important to know exactly what your options are for the deck currently. Because again, it's a great pick in the meta. I definitely think that it's definitely not a bad deck. It does have options. Of course, if you are playing it very well and you do play it pretty consistently, you are going to find yourself being able to deal with most situations, of course, that might be difficult for other decks to deal with, but you want to make sure that you're using your deck to the best of its ability. It's a very good toolbox deck. It does allow you to spam out a lot of bodies, so a lot of the link monsters can be abused. So I just want to go ahead and show you guys a quick combo on how you can make Dweller, because that is going to be a very important one, especially for this format with the arrival of tier elements back into the format, and then of course Unchained running around. There's quite a few decks that are actually still very good that do utilize the grave, and that's pretty much very important in terms of knowing how to set that up. And in the lines of setting that up, you're actually able to set up multiple interruptions, so it is nice to be able to understand how that works. So I'll go ahead and show you guys my formula or my take for our local formula series number 7, and then I'll go ahead and showcase for you guys a little combo at the end as well, just to show you again how we're making Dweller pretty easily. Alrighty, so jumping into the deck profile. So let's go ahead and get into it. As always, we're going to start with our Phantom Knight cards. So we've got our 3 Torn Scale, we've got our 3 Silent Boots, 2 Cloak, 1 Stained Greaves, 1 Ragged Gloves. Then we've got our 3 Fog Blade, 1 Wing, and 1 Shade Burgundy. So I believe this is very standard. Of course, this is still the same ratios that we always play. I definitely don't want to play any less than 3 Torn Scale. Bishios are running around. Runic is now a playable deck because of Rise Heart's disappearance. So you don't want to sit here and you don't want to get caught with just having only 2 Torn Scale. Plus, it's obviously one of the better cards that you do want to see, and it actually is important to see early on in your combo when you're doing the Dweller line, because you need that additional body in order to make Break Sword. So yeah, this is the best ratio in my opinion. You utilize as much of the Phantom Knight cards as we can in order to allow us to have full extension as well as full protection at all times. So definitely wouldn't change much of this ratio. Again, very standard and it works. So then we've got our adventure package. We've got our 3 Water Enchantress, 1 Griffin Rider, 2 Right, 1 Dracoback, and 1 Faithful Adventure. So again, very standard, no Illegal Knight. I definitely do like Illegal Knight. I think it's a great card. It's very good in certain matchups. The only problem is that it is a fiend, so giving it to your opponent in Unchained can be a bit problematic. Also, you want to make sure that when you're playing, you're not just giving your opponent a body at any point. It is very difficult for you to be able to find and pinpoint the right time to obviously clear out your opponent's monsters and then give them Illegal Knight. So obviously it's great during your turn because Dracoback can return it, but playing it to a board, it can be a little bit trickier. But yeah, definitely think that this is a great ratio. I don't like playing 2 Right. I think that that's wrong because of the fact that if you see Right and Water Enchantress becomes your extender if you have a Phantom Knight name. So that allows you to primarily play the game. So that's why I try to make sure that I am maxing out on all of those. For our non-engine, we have 2 Emergency Teleport and 2 Psychic Monsters. Normally I play 3 E-Tele, but I wanted to make room for hand traps and board breakers. I want to make sure that I do have options of being able to stop my opponent or interact with my opponent, because board breakers are nice, but unfortunately, not all the board breakers are that great at the moment. I'm not a fan of talents in this deck because 9 times out of 10, you're not stealing a level 3. Not every deck is dark, so it is very hard for you to find, certain lines that are going to allow you to be able to play the game when you're taking your opponent's monster. And then, of course, if you've already committed to a normal summon and you're drawing cards, it can be kind of difficult for you to continue playing, because if you don't already have a level 3 on board, the only card you could possibly draw is E-Telly to keep you playing. And if you're using talents to just draw 2 cards, it's not going to be the best option for you. So I think 2 and 2 is great. Again, good ratio. It gives you options for being able to play the game. Then we've got 1 Foolish Burial, 1 Rhoda. Very standard. No call by. These are the only 2 like engine spells, because Foolish is insane with adventure, and then Rhoda just gives us the additional name. Then we'll go over our basically kind of like our board breaking cards. We've got our 3 droplets and 3 Fenrir. Great cards. I mean, I played Fenrir in multiple builds back in the day when Fenrir first came out. It's a great card. It's great for building a board, breaking a board. It gives you options. The card to hand also is very good because he sits on the board as an interruption. And then, of course, the card in hand that you had, you can always use for IP Masquerena to make Unicorn, to bounce a card off the opponent's field, or you can discard it for Torn Scale. You can discard it for, Adventure, Faithful Adventure if you need a search and don't have the Draco back. And then 3 droplet cards, utterly insane. I love this card. I mean, it does everything it needs to. I was actually able to break a Mana DM board after I dropped a nib, cleared out most of the beginning of his board, and then I had droplet. I was able to send a trap, so I was able to basically play around the Baron and the trap card, the Omni, that Mana DM plays, and it's great. I mean, we play enough traps in here to where a lot of times we can see droplet with a trap, and we're just able to do what we need to do. Then for hand traps, I was playing 3 Droll, 3 Nib. These are hand traps that are high impact. They don't just, pinpoint one card. They really just, deter your opponent for the entire turn. So I think these are great. These are solid cards. I mean, obviously they come in and out of the format, but I definitely think they're great, especially at a local setting. Droll just helps you deal with all those random decks like Dark World and things like that, or anything crazy. Nib, same thing. I mean, you don't want your opponent just to go popping off on you and doing whatever they want to do. These cards usually tame most of those decks and allow you to be able to combat those decks and deal with them. And they're good against the some of the meta decks in the format as well. I mean, this is great against Purely. This is like average against Unchained. I mean, a lot of people are like, oh, it doesn't do it against Unchained. Well, if they search their first card and they have Prosperity, they're sitting on a dead card. So that's always nice. I mean, this hits everything else in the format. And then Nibiru also does as well, especially depending on your timing. You can normally get your opponent, even if it's for a couple cards. I mean, it's better than allowing your opponent to just full combo and hope to just see a board breaker that work. Nib just kind of gets you there. So main deck is 42. Definitely think that this is great. I mean, obviously, as the format continues to develop, we'll continue to make adjustments and changes that we need to, of course. But I definitely think that this is a very solid 42 card main. I like playing 42 usually because of, certain cards in the deck you just don't want to see, like Faithful and Draco back. Let's get into the extra deck. We'll start with the links. We've got IP and Cherubini as our link 2s. Cherubini is just the best card in the deck, of course. It does everything. It filters and gets us to everything that we do need. And then IP Masquerena is one of our primary end boards, cards that we go into for our end board for Unicorn. And then, of course, it'll be doing a lot more in the next set. But yeah, Cherubini, the honorary Phantom Knight. And then, of course, we have our Link 2. The only Link 2 that we're playing is just the Dark Charmer. I like playing this because, every deck kind of has a Dark Monster. And a lot of times it's nice to be able to link climb, especially if you're going into Unicorn and Access Code, or it allows you to obviously go into Bardiche as well. Unicorn and Bardiche, these are our link 3s. Obviously very self-explanatory. Bardiche is just the best card next to Cherubini. And then, of course, Access Code and Underworld Goddess. So I wanted to make sure that I had options for being able to deal with things like Purely for Noir or any Towers monster. So Underworld Goddess obviously gets there. Access Code, I mean, it's honestly, I go into this so many times and it's crazy because a lot of people, they talk about Phantom Knights and they're like, oh, well, I barely go into Access Code. It's like, man, I go in this card all the time. Like it allows you to close out most games. It's very easy to climb into. It's a dark. So a lot of times if you're using Breaksword and you're climbing, like you get free bodies. I mean, Breaksword just brings back 2 dudes. That gets you right into Dark Charmer. Dark Charmer gets into your next. It's like you just get all this free value. Even if you haven't used the effect of the 2 Phantom Knights, it's like you make Breaksword, get your 2, then, use the effects and just bring free bodies. It's free bodies. So definitely think that these are very necessary. 2 Breaksword. We're not playing Levier. We wanted to focus more on being able to have options in our extra deck. So we had to cut some things down. We wanted to make sure we had good, very, very good going first and very good going second option. The link 4s that we're playing here for setup is Abyss Dweller and Evil Swarm Nightmare. Like I said, Abyss Dweller is very easy to make in this deck. We have access to 2 level 4s very, very easily. So, this card is going to be utterly insane in this next upcoming format. So definitely make sure that you're aware of, Abyss Dweller. And then of course Nightmare, one of my favorite cards to end on. I'm not a fan of Time Thief. I like it, but Evil Storm Nightmare just does so much more. Raiders Knight and Arc Rebellion. This is a great way of being able to OTK our opponent. It's the original Mosquito. Basically allows us to just super punch over a monster and kill them, even under droplet, because it does original attack. Also, Raiders Knight into break sword into Raiders Knight, and the Raider Knight back into break sword is actually pretty nuts as well. And then we have Downard Zeus. We want to make sure that obviously we have access to our Downard and access to our Zeus because it's one of our best lines. And being able to clear the board, and I do it all the time. You droplet, summon 2 level 3s, make break sword, attack, Downard Zeus is just so much value. So that's it for the extra deck. Again, there's a couple flex spots, but I definitely think the Dweller needs to be in the extra deck because again, this upcoming format, graveyards are going to be running rampant, and tier limit is definitely a deck. So side deck again can definitely vary. I wanted to make sure that I had options for just about everything because I haven't played in a while, especially at locals. So I wanted to make sure that I was ready. 3 Phantasme. I like it in a lot of matchups, obviously, because links again are running pretty rampant, but of course it's very good in the Unchained matchup. I like it because obviously it allows me to be able to draw into hand traps as well. Sometimes if we need Droll or we need Nib or we need DD Crow, we want to make sure that we're being able to find those options, and this helps us get there sometimes during our opponent's turn. Plus some decks they do target, so like you're able to basically set yourself with like a little Omni that can deal with certain things. Book of Eclipse is obviously for the purely matchup. We wanted to make sure that we have something for going second. Triple Twin Twister just deals with back row. We don't want to get floodgated by anything, so obviously that's there for us to be able to handle any back row. Also very good against Flow Under Ease, purely, things like that. Anti-Spell Fragrance. This card put in so much work today. So, I mean, you flip Anti-Spell Fragrance with Dweller, and your opponent's basically not playing the game. It's how I won my matchup against Guardian Chimera, or the Chimera Branded, and it's also how I won my matchup against the Purely. I basically just flipped Anti-Spell Fragrance. They had evenly, and then I just kept the Anti-Spell Fragrance because I knew that it would do so much more. But yeah, definitely a solid card. I definitely like it in the sideboard. It's very easy to make in this, or to deal with in this deck, because we don't really rely on spells that heavily. And then 3 DD Crow, another clutch card in the sideboard. I think this card's absolutely nuts, especially in this format, because being able to pinpoint spell, traps, or monsters is very important. I think Bishios are going to be very strong as well, but I definitely think that DD Crow just warrants its own position in the sideboard because of the amount of things that it can actually deal with outside of just monsters. But yeah, let me go ahead and showcase for you guys what we have going on here. A small little combo for the Abyss Dweller, because I definitely think it's important to understand how you can set up a pop with the trap for Fogblade or Wings into Dweller. So it gives you options, because of course Dweller is not always going to completely shut out your opponent, but you want to have the option to. So let's go ahead and showcase that for you guys. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and start our handoff with something like this. This generally only requires you to have 2 different names for the most part, but generally, I mean, just even having a Fogblade or Wings, or even the Trap Monster can normally get you there. But I just wanted to again showcase for you guys how we can get there. The focus on what you're doing, because the line is always going to be different. It's not always going to be the same. Sometimes you're going to have different names. You just have to figure out how to get there when you're there. So very simple, obviously. Normal summon the Cloak, special summon the Tracker. We'll link those 2 into Cherubini. And the Cherubini effect, we're going to go ahead and actually send ourselves a copy of Torn Scales. And then we're going to go ahead, we're going to activate Cloak to go ahead and search for the Stained Greaves. And then we're going to go ahead and trigger the Torn Scale. Torn Scale is going to go ahead and search the Fogblade. Fogblade will be in the grave, and Torn Scale is going to send the gloves. So you're wanting to do this kind of setup because it's going to give us all the options that we do need. And then you're going to go ahead and Fogblade, bringing back the Ragged Gloves, because we are going to want to have access to this. Go ahead and overlay these 2 into Breaksword. That way we're able to get Breaksword into the grave without actually proccing its ability that stops us from going into anything other than dark. And then we'll go ahead and link these 2 off to go into Bardiche. Bardiche effect, we're going to go ahead and set the trap. And then we'll go ahead and send a name we haven't used. So we'll go ahead and send the gloves, or I'm sorry, the boots. And then we're going to go ahead and flip this. Trigger this, make it a level 4, and then go into Dweller. So that gives us the option to be able to have a pop. So now we're able to actually just use ragged gloves to send wings. So that's going to give us access to our pop, and then we're going to be able to, oh, it must be in hand. Yeah, so we could just send a fog blade if need be, but, and then we're able to banish this to get a fog blade. So the idea behind this is that we're pretty much being able to set up Dweller, but also set up the break sword. So as long as you have the names that you need, generally it does require Torrent scales because you need that free level 3 body, which is why it's very important to play 3. But you want to make sure that as long as you have one name and you're sending the other, that you're getting gloves, and you're getting the Torrent scale into the graveyard. That way you're able to make break sword, send them to grave, and then you're able to, use the, Bardiche effect to go ahead and set up the Shade Brigandine and search for the Stained Greaves. So yeah, and I mean, sometimes you're able to do it even with the Stained Greaves. Like, you can have Stained Greaves in hand, and if you need to use it to set up, you can always use Cloak to add the hand, then banish with Stained Greaves, and Stained Greaves can summon to make the monster a level 4. So you do have that option as well, but that's an easy way of being able to set up Dweller. It gives you the option to be able to have access to Dweller. It gives you the option to have the Fog Blade, and also give you the interruption between the Fog Blade, bringing back the Break Sword with Bardiche effect, and that doesn't include Water Enchantress. So I mean, if you opened up the right or the Water Enchantress, you would basically have your token, and you would have Wandering Griffin Rider, so you'd have your Omni. So Omni, Dweller, Fog Blade with a pop interruption from Bardiche. So again, very good. I definitely think this is worth having the option to set up, because Abyss Dweller is just going to be utterly nuts, with this format. And then of course having Wandering Griffin Rider basically allows you to have that protection. But yeah, hope you guys enjoy the video. Hope you guys understand the combo or the line there for it. Again, it's very easy, very simple. You just got to work with it a little bit. Again, it changes based on what you open up in your hand. So the cards you send are not always going to be the same, because it's all contingent on what you draw and what you open. But yeah, the lines are definitely there, and I definitely think it's worth being able to know that that's an option, especially because you want to make sure that you have as much interruption as possible and being able to set up your plays as well. But yeah, that's it for the local formula series number 7. Again, I wanted to showcase for you guys, my local deck for Phantom Knights this week. And yeah, I'll definitely probably be playing the same list next week, maybe a couple tweaks, a couple changes, but when that time comes, I'll definitely make sure that I go ahead and post up number 8 for you guys. But yeah, go ahead and jump in the comment section below as usual. Let's go over our formula and our take of the deck. That way we can go ahead and make adjustments and make it as strong as possible for this upcoming format. Hope you guys are excited as much as I am, especially with the Horse and Diabolstar stuff coming out. I definitely think that it has a lot of guts, and it's going to give the deck a lot of resources. Yeah, so a lot of resources, a lot of good things that it can do. But yeah, definitely jump in the comment section below. Appreciate you guys. Like and subscribe.